Have you ever studied food chains? I remember when I was young learning that in science class, and this is eaten by this, who's eaten by that, and you're working your way up the food chain. It's pretty fascinating. As you go from prey all the way up to predator, and ultimately to apex predator. Who's the one that only eats and never seems to get eaten? Well, there's some argument on this on both sides, but many people seem to feel that the ultimate apex predator, the one that does the most damage down below through the food chain, are human beings. We look in the mirror and see how public enemy number one to much of the animal kingdom and to much of the environment itself. Now, this can be tricky, but if you notice what the Lord says to the Shakers and to the Latter-day Saints in section 49, look at verse 18 and 19. He says, "Whoso forbiddeth to abstain from meats," and that's really confusing. To forbid to abstain, is that a double negative? What am I supposed to make of that? If you look at this, the footnote, it clarifies. Whoso biddeth to abstain. So you're making a rule that you have to abstain from meat, okay? Let's read it that way. Whoso biddeth to abstain from meats, that man should not eat the same, is not ordained of God. For behold, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air and that which cometh of the earth is ordained for the use of man, for food and for raiment, and that he might have in abundance. Now, I know a lot of you out there that love to barbecue just heaved a sigh of relief, like, whew, okay, thank you, section 49. I've got a new favorite revelation. Yes, it's okay to eat meat. Here, by the way, it's not saying you're wrong to be a vegetarian or a vegan. In some ways, when he's talking about you shouldn't be out there forcing your beliefs on people, you shouldn't bid to abstain, I think that should go both ways. You shouldn't force a meat eater into vegetarianism, but you shouldn't force a vegetarian into eating meat. Live and let live, in some ways, is what's being described here. In this particular instance, Shakers, many of them, believed in a strict vegetarianism. Okay, there's beautiful things about the Shaker faith. And the communitarian ideal is a beautiful thing. The sense of being at one with each other and one with the earth is a beautiful thing. And so not wanting to cause problems with the animal kingdom, they're going to hold themselves back. That's a beautiful thing. But to preach it that is the doctrine and that you're not allowed to eat meat, that's not the message of God either. Not in section 49 and not even back in Genesis when humankind are given dominion over the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air and the fish of the sea. The way we're seeing it here, they are ordained for the use of man, both for food and for raiment. In fact, to have it in abundance. But let's pause for a moment. And if we're looking for Goldilocks zones and proving contraries and finding balance, if on one extreme it is putting humanity at the service of the animal kingdom where we can't touch anything, that we're here and we're ruining the planet, and so we should wipe off the human race, and then the earth itself will be in far better condition without us. That's too far of an extreme towards that kind of environmentalism. But is there an opposite extreme where the environment is simply something to be exploited for human consumption far beyond what is sustainable and wise? How do we find this balance? I'm not going to force vegetarianism on people, but at the opposite extreme, we'll see this in the word of wisdom. Are we eating meat sparingly? Are we being careful? Are we being sustainable? All these kinds of things. Wise stewards over planet Earth and not acting as if we own the place ourselves with no consequence. In fact, if you read verse 18 and 19, which we just did, now pivot to 20 and 21. But, okay, so he's trying to help us correct without overcorrecting. The but right there is trying to keep us from swinging the pendulum too far on the other side. So yes, it's ordained for man, it's meant to be had in abundance, but it is not given that one man should possess that which is above another. Wherefore the world lieth in sin, And woe be unto man that sheddeth blood, or that wasteth flesh, and hath no need. Oh, there's an important correction. We want to avoid overcorrection. But like I said, do we see the earth as something where we have stewardship and not outright ownership? This idea of the world lying in sin, because two things. On the one hand, we are trying to get above one another. The Shakers were better than us at that. Okay, remember the saints are being prepared to live the law of consecration, which in some ways is moving in a Shaker direction. They're good at communitarianism. We've got a lot to learn from them. But don't overswing it. Find some way to balance a use of the abundance of the earth, but not in such a way that we are sinners in the way that we exploit it. I want to get more of those natural resources so that I can be above my brothers and sisters. That is going to lead to an exploitation of Mother Earth that is unsustainable. And the other part of wasting flesh when you have no need, that's something we need to be careful about as well. So my hope as we study this and ponder it in our own circumstance is, how do we find that middle ground? How do we have dominion as the Lord intended, but as stewards with consequences in mind? In fact, let me show you something that might be of note to you. Back in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, Adam and Eve were told to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over fish and fowls and flesh and all of those things. But then when you fast forward to Genesis chapter 9, we are now with Noah and his family. And Noah is Adam 2.0, a new beginning. We're going to create a new earth after the flood. And in fact, just like their ancestors, Noah and his family were told to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Same idea. But then notice this difference. Instead of saying dominion, it says the fear of you and the dread of you will be among the fowls of the air and the fish of the sea and every animal that creepeth upon the earth. That's interesting. In the Edenic state, yes, humankind has dominion over the earth. In a post-fallen world, and a post-flood world at that, yes, you'll have dominion, but will it be because the animal kingdom fears you? Will it be because Mother Nature dreads you? And that's something we need to be aware of. I hope that our environmentalism is on par with our desire to be good stewards. I hope that we understand the gift that God has given us in Mother Earth. And if we remember the visions of Enoch, the earth's own spirit, hoping we will care for her and do it well.